shut my notebook, threw my pen, my notebook opened itself back up, and my pen flew back into my grip again like Thor's hammer returning to him. I never thought I'd be this many years in. I only started writing to impress a girl, thinking that that would have been the end. Yeah. I did not know that a fire could start from a spark. I did not know that for years to come I'll be transforming words into Noah's Ark, saving others from the storms in their lives, encouraging them to reach the mark. I did not know that I would be this many years in. So the other day, out of frustration, I ripped up my notebook, threw my pen, and my notebook opened, my notebook put itself back together, and my pen flew back into my grip again like Thor's hammer returning to him. I cried on the inside. My plan was just to write one poem, only to find out that I had many more inside. That one poem turned into two. Two poems turned into a poetry notebook. My homeboy said, "Lundy, have you ever heard of a poetry venue?" I told him that I'm just going to perform this one time. That one time turned into way more than a few. That one time turned into many more nights and many more venues, many more metaphors, many more similes, many more revisions, many more stories, many more edits, many more analogies. So the other day, out of exhaustion, I quit. I threw out my notebook and pen, only for them to reappear on my desk again. I tried to let go, but poetry reminded me that it was not something that could just be discarded. It is tied to my soul, living in my heart, flowing in my veins, voltage in my bones. It claimed my body as its own. Years ago, it was just a stray dog that followed me home. I figured I would give it food and water for a few days and then tell it to move on. Years later, this dog, a little older, still lives in my home, leaving fur on the couch, chewing on my shoes, barking at nothing, keeping me awake, leaving torment in its wake, haunting me, lurking in my bedroom at night, flickering the bedroom lights, rustling the window blinds, knocking on the bedroom walls, knocking on the walls of my skull, taking control over my thoughts, taking control over my body, taking control over my life. Years ago, in my freshman year of high school, I wrote my first poem. At that time, I was just trying to impress this girl. In the process, I followed poetry home. She gave me food and water for a few days, and ever since then, I didn't move on. 20 years later, this dog is no longer stray. Poetry took me in as her own, and till this day, I live in her home. Thank you. Organization I started in 2018. It's called the Right to Change Youth Movement. So it's going to be the verb, WRITE. All right, cool. So look it up on IG. So we teach kids writing in public public speaking skills through the craft of spoken word poetry. I have a memoir with me tonight. It's called Entitled, It Is Finished. The best way I could describe the memoir without giving it away is that it is a story underneath a story. It has a total of 6 sections, 22 chapters. So after you're done reading a particular section or a chapter, I will reveal what was happening behind the scenes of what you have already read. By far the hardest project that I've ever worked on. It took me about 5 years to complete. So get a book. It's the whole point. I've been losing my mind for 4 years. Every morning since the day you left, I reached hungrily for my cell phone, thinking by some miracle I would still get that good morning text from you. I don't go out as much as I used to. And my bedroom became an insane asylum where I used my fingernails to etch the date of when I first met you into the walls over and over again, hoping that you could see my ability to focus on one thing, and that I would come running into you, would come running into my life.
Go ahead, man.
Again. I've been thrown into the back of a cop car time and time again. Because over the period of 4 years, I've trashed hundreds of stores, knocking things over because none of the clocks could take me back so I could reverse your tears. If I can go back in time, I would go back to the year 2008. It's 11 a.m. Wednesday morning. On the floor next to the bed, there is a condom wrapper, a pen, and a few sheets of paper. Back on the bed, there is 2 people wide awake. Me and a woman that is not you. After a minute or 2, the whole scene starts to progress. We both close our eyes back up as if we were trying to get more rest. During the night, there's a lot of rolling back and forth, pulling and tugging on the bed sheets, and me waking up occasionally, like dang, she got some cold behind feet. The time is now 5 a.m. and neither one of us are moving. It remains that way until the hours of 3 and 4 when the blanket on our back starts shifting. I get up, pull the blanket off my body, and backwards I stagger as if my legs were sore out of the bedroom on the other side of the bedroom door. A few seconds later, there is a sound of rusty hinges and a toilet flush. I can now hear my footsteps getting closer to the bedroom. I walk in, and my energy level is not much, and my soldier just came from war, so his belly standing up. The condom is filled with semen. The woman turns over from the fenced position and spreads her legs open. I climb back onto the bed, place myself between her thighs, and before I dive in, there's a reverse ejaculation. I'm going in and out of an hour, easy to penetration. I'm talking a whole lot of smack like, baby girl, can you feel the sensation? The thrusting goes from fast to slow. It goes from wanting her back to blow and trying to see her curl her toes to, I better take this slow because it's way too early to let my load go. The time is now 1 a.m. And before we started to go, I detached myself from her as if I was saying this is wrong, I've got to go. I take the condom off, she closes her legs shut. The condom wrapper elevates off of the ground into my hands. I place the condom into the wrapper. The wrapper reseals itself back up. She says, okay, let's do this. Now that you got it up, I take the condom, put it back onto the dresser. I move closer to kiss and caress her. I go from touching her thighs and her breasts and licking on her flesh to now moving fast and working hard to put her bra back on to cover her chest. By this time, my room is already a mess. Clothes are everywhere. Pens and paper are still on the floor from being knocked off of my work desk. We both fall to the floor while kissing some more, and then my room starts to look like a scene from the Twilight Zone. Her clothes starts floating from the ground and flying off of my bookshelves. My clothes are flying towards me as we both start to reclothe ourselves. We both get up off the ground, put the rest of our clothes on. From the ground, we move towards the wall of my room. By this time, I've already got our heart on. We both get up off the wall, land on my work desk, took our hands off each other. The pens and paper that were knocked to the floor earlier quickly reclaimed their place on my desk. next to a black folder. We both make our way out of the bedroom, make our way out of the apartment. I take my keys out of my pockets. I try to open the front door, and it's a pitiful attempt. I try to open the front door, and it's a pitiful attempt. Because at the same time, I've got my arms around her, whispering things into her ears that are not meant. I take my keys, put it back into my pocket, and this time I don't say a word. I walked her back to her car, opened the car door for her, I watched her get in, and this time I don't say a word. It is Tuesday night. 11:59 is the time. Both cars start. First hers, and then mine. Now we're weaving in and out of traffic backwards. We are weaving in and out of traffic. It looks like I'm no longer thinking with the wrong head, that I'm now using logic. So when me and this woman get back to that empty parking lot, I'm gonna look at her and say, no, we can't exchange numbers and you can't come back to my spot. I'm gonna watch as she looks at me crazy, watch as she walks away from me, watch me not looking at her because I'll be too busy thinking about you. If somebody told me that I could turn back the hands of time, I would, just so I can watch myself get back into that car, and this time I would drive straight to you. You are beautiful. Don't listen to the ones that say otherwise. Your beauty resides in a place that's never been exposed to their eyes, a place that resides on top of a high mountain. It is deep inside the crevices of a cave. Guarding the mouth of this cave are sharp shards of your big broken heart, hanging off a chain with broken promises, quickly swinging back and forth, ready to destroy any man who gets too close. Guarding the mouth of the cave are a lack of trust, anger, skepticism, ready to destroy those who are not ready to give you the most. But the men who say you are not beautiful were never able to reach this point. Oof. We're never able to reach the top. We're never willing to wage battle for your heart. So on the mountain, a few got halfway and stopped. Most just stood at the foot of the mountain, too afraid of the rocks. So at the foot is where they perished and flopped as I stood. At the base of the mountain, on a mountain of their bones, something told me that you were worth fighting for, that there is more. So I started to climb. Along the way, I nearly slipped to my death on the skeletons of men who did not make it halfway. I almost lost my balance on the remains. The skeletons were covered with thick stains of lies, stupidity. That was the end of them, but I refused to let it be the end of me. I continued to climb, motivated by the wonders that I was about to see. My steps were carefully planned. I watched where I stepped and where I placed my hands. When I finally reached the top, I found myself face to face with the anger you still held on to, the past things that you've been through. They were not put to let me through, and a war started to wage between me and them. But when they saw how I backed up my promises with action, they quickly backed up off me and fell out the way. But still, your big broken heart was in the way. It continued to swing back and forth on that pillar made of broken promises. I tried to run past this. It almost took me out. So I took you out to show you what a gentleman is about. The men who perished at the foot of the mountain wanted to go straight to your house, sit on your couch, feel on your body, not that you're concerned with what comes out your mouth. So I took you out to show you that gentlemen are not extinct. As the world would want you to believe, we are still here, holding our ground like Spartans. When you saw how I held my ground, your broken heart quickly reassembled and became whole. The pendulum slowed down until it came to a stop. I ran past it, and there it was, what most men don't see, illuminating inside of the cave in all its glory. It was more precious than what lies between your thighs, how high your breasts rise and your booty size. It wasn't a place that your eyeshadow cannot taint, and a region your lipstick can't cover, and an area your makeup mirror is liable to shadow. But they don't know, because they've never been to the mountaintop. Many perished at the bottom. Some reached halfway and stopped. So don't take their words to heart. You are art, crafted by the hands of God, molded into greatness, printed into magic, written into a symphony. You are Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, played very slowly. You are chariots of fire. You are a choir, standing on the beach, staring off into the horizon and singing, because God is listening. Your beauty is an exotic beast pacing inside the gates of heaven, and I can see its hunger in your eyes. I can hear the way it growls when you talk, the way it prowls when you walk, and I can feel its bite every time we kiss. You are beautiful, so don't take the words to heart. You are art. They haven't even reached the mountaintop to know that it exists. I'm gonna do this last piece. Thank you for listening. I'm gonna do this last piece, and this is by far I don't know why, but it's just like the heart. It took me a long time to memorize. Sheesh. Man, my 1-year-old daughter running around like, Daddy gotta memorize this piece now. Here's your milk. All right, go. Be free. Okay. I can remember the time. He told me it's time. I was young and thought I had a lifetime to tame time. In the blink of an eye, I found myself out there chilling and sipping on sunshine, treating life like it's tea time and enjoying every bit of it like a favorite pastime. I was lost in the world and I became a lost victim of lost time. Until I ran into dark times. I don't remember the exact date and time, but it was definitely nighttime. That was as cold as wintertime. I found myself paying a heavy cost for what I thought was free time. My pillows were drenched with tears after bawling my eyes out more than a few times. I was lost in the world and had become a lost victim of time. I grew tired of doing it my way many times. Not wisely managing my time. That night I prayed for better time. In the darkness of my bedroom as I reclined, I felt the stillness of time. A light shined at that time, a light so bright it turned my bedroom into daytime. Then I heard a familiar voice that was not mine, a sweet and timeless voice that you can listen to many times. It said, it's go time, game time, no overtime, lost time does not make you a lost cause. Like time, you are still mine. Stick with me and you will reach the promised land in due time. I grabbed a hold of his hand at that time. A hand that is not as frail as mine. A hand that is not as frail as time. And I said that I'm going to do Time flies when you're having fun. So much fun, I lost track of time. So much fun, I lost track of time, so I don't remember the day and time on my timeline when I broke and shattered into a million pieces like a midlife crisis in the middle of a timeline, but it was for a different purpose this time, to build me back up for these times. I was so broken that I wanted to go back to living like I did in past times. I wanted to rewind time back to those dark times, and then in a timely fashion, so I heard a voice say, Lundy, when will you realize that time does not rewind, slow down, or stand still? It has zero chill. You will be just fine. I know it's pitch black down the road, but with faith, you will be able to see just fine. You just have to believe this time. We cannot waste any more time. It's grind time. Shine time. It's not just your time, you're mine. So it's my time too. Keep playing with time, and you will find that you are only playing you. It was at that time that I took time seriously. It was at that time that I moved expeditiously. When I was a youth, I couldn't see that I was standing inside of an hourglass filled with sand. I was oblivious to the sands of time that poured down onto my head, shoulders, and hands. I was oblivious to the sands of time that quickly started to bury my feet. I was too young to see the expiration date of my heartbeat. The thing about life is that we do not know the exact day and time that we will run out of time. So that means that every second is showtime. At this very second, it's a sad time. Someone is lying on their deathbed wishing that they had a second chance to take advantage of time. But right now, it's bedtime. And the Reaper is right on time. Standing at the bedside, staring at his timepiece. The time has arrived. He represents death, but never felt so alive. He hopes that they don't survive. He watches as they take their last breath and roll back their eyes. The time has come. Their time is done. No matter how much their loved ones stand by and cry and whine, they won't be able to give their loved one a little bit more time. No more game time. No more overtime. It's game over. The curtains have closed. It's about that time. It's about that time. And I hope that I did not waste any of yours. Because time is precious. We all have been given a certain amount of it. Before the curtain closes, how are you going to use yours?
Haley, Julian, and
Who's that last one?
Clark.
Hello, my name is Haley. I do poetry. You can also watching a Jenna Ortega interview. She was talking about how like she often gets like sexualized and like often gets like spewed a lot of hate about her, and I like didn't think she knew about it, but like she obviously like had to like know about it. Like she doesn't often like share stuff about herself. So it got me like thinking. I was like, okay, I often hear things about like people like say stuff about me, and I don't say anything about it because I like don't want it to like be like a big thing, even though it kind of is. People like talking about me. So I made this poem called "I'm Right." Just because I don't say doesn't mean I don't know. I don't bring to light because inevitably we'll have to fight. And I'm so tired of a battle I know will route to the core of who we are and more. Because we'll have to look in, no more than who we've been. Scary, yes. Maybe I don't want a useless fight. And sometimes I don't want to know that I'm right. Because I'm scared you'll go and take that flight, and I'll be alone once again, because I'm right.
How you doing? Alright, so, second time here. This poem is called Three Dimensional. It's just how I see things in life, and maybe how I want to identity and see them differently. So, been working on it for a while, so I'm just go for it. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so three dimensional. Take me from this three-dimensional world. Let me start. Take me from this three-dimensional world. There were times where I chose to abandon my friends. So my mind chose to wonder if they really let me in. Take me from this three-dimensional world where I tried to take my life, where I tried to take pills more than what was prescribed. Take me from this three-dimensional world where one day I clocked into work, my mom looked at me and said, "Your brother's life is no more." Take me from this three-dimensional world where I told you that I love you. You said the risk versus reward, my feelings I will not gamble. Take me from this three-dimensional world, I often hear my phone ping a text. And although I know it's far from yours, a foolish man, I still reflect. Take me from this three-dimensional world where in the morning I choose to be good, but by day's end, I stumble, lost in a fiery room. Take me from this three-dimensional world where I know I broke my cousin's heart. Abandoned him for my drug. It was a woman who I allowed and ultimately drove us apart. Take me from this three-dimensional world where I've always been in love. Even as a kid, my mom would say, "My son, who is it that has your heart?" Take me from this three-dimensional world where I become infected by my own tears, that is, and because I won't let them out, I've allowed a sadness that constantly festers. Take me from this three-dimensional world where my friend lost his mom, and I watch in amazement how he finds the strength to carry on. Take me from this three-dimensional world where I realize I need to be alone, not for forever, but for a while. There are a few things I need to do on my own. And when I'm done, things won't be so three-dimensional. I'll come to find wisdom, realizing I was the only key, which was me, to make all things possible. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Clark.
I'm Pau.
Yeah, and so we are actually doing pieces that are from a show that we're doing here next month. The show is called The Audience Will Choose the Title of the show, and it is a whole, how do you describe it?
Collaboration performance piece.
Yeah, so there's like 9 artists including Pau, and they've all written a piece or they've made a piece, and then they give it to someone else in the team, and then that person in the team makes their version of that piece, and then everyone collaborates to make the final performances of that. So like a poem becomes like a kid's story, becomes a dance, that kind of thing. So we have 2 pieces that are like the original first piece in that process, and then if you come in the month, you will see what the end result of these pieces will be. Unfortunately, Bree, one of the artists in that group, couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to read her piece, and Pau is going to read their own piece. It is going to be under 5 minutes, I promise.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
You go.
Okay. The shifting new leaves outside my window hold within them the softest shade of green nature has ever known. The late afternoon light slants through gentle veins, turning them brilliant yellow sweet, a glow so vibrantly alive it pierces my chest and outpours my heart. roaring with something other than sound. I know the concept of time passing in theory, only aware of it through the sensation of breath, someone else's or my own. I cannot have the days move forward and have you back as you were, so I will stay here, time immune in this room, so pristinely known, with you still warm in my arms, still warm in my arms. Against the window in the light on the wind, those young, hopeful leaves on elder branches sway their gentle movements, whispering enough, enough, enough. Some say you cannot love as we do, yet there we were as 1,000 times before in a garden of blossoming weeds, sharing the sun in glances. Maybe it isn't love, but in your gaze I saw you acknowledging me, and what is acknowledgement if not the first kindness that all other kindnesses are born from? I heard you breathing in the night and knew then the expanse of your time. I counted the days of shared sunlight. I put theory into practice. I would lift your broken body onto mine, caring for it in the ways you no longer could, settle you in your favorite places, providing the simplest measure of need when ability fell away. How much more will we know the temper of our love when there is no glory to be gained by its presence? Blessed be this routine against all reason and comfort, for it will be the last routine I share with you. God said they care for the sparrows, so I need nothing greater from the heavens, no promise of eternity. It is enough knowing grief for the small things is holy. Will then my own broken body not be lifted for my days? Will my own small life not be holy by its simplest measure? Bent crooked, I will see the thinnest blades of new life and smile. Maybe then this is the source of new leaves and brilliant yellow sweet. You still warm in my heart, bleeding with memory and growing older, rivulets of self-pooling and ruts of first kindnesses, no longer holding breath, rising and falling, following. The great craft of anything that grows, this is the art of good enough. Divine currents circulate in mundane leaves, and love stays where it lies unfettered. Enough, enough, enough.
Mine's a lot shorter. It's called Growing Pains. When I was younger, my mom used to tell me it would be painful to grow up. The more you lengthen, the more you feel your bones ache and crack. Getting bigger means filling out hollowed spaces you didn't know existed, noticing things you hadn't thought were possible. Our brains sometimes feel 3 times meaner than when we were young. Being conscious of our emotions kind of makes things worse. Oh, to be young again, I say at my ripe age of 25, with a body that feels 108. I can't be as bendy as I was before. I don't move as quick. All I feel are numbered days and endless crisis. Why didn't I hold on longer to my youth? Hold on tighter to it. My hands don't stop shaking. My jitters don't let me sleep. My mom was right, because now all I can ever feel are growing pains.
So, second round, Anthony, Melissa, and then Christian.
They say it's Black History Month, but I say it's the Black New Year. That's what we're gonna call it. We get everybody that comes from a different culture. You know, if you have a month, you have the New Year. That's what we're gonna go ahead and call it now. Okay? Everybody claim that? Yeah. All right, cool. I'm just jump right into the poetry. I don't want to take too long. I know we got a lot of people. All right. February is a Civil War cemetery. No African name on the grave. It's the dash. Growing ocean dividing ports was African. American slave auction. February is us, slipping free from us. All year but February. Is recalling Black history, maybe history. His story is an elixir, for else he won't diagnose. February is our story. Hers, his, pronouns I missed. Story, the story, tribe. Which tribe to return to? We don't know. Which tribe to return to? Story. We are orphans. Elmer's gluing rubble into monuments and the city bombed during winter. Story. February isn't a party, it is enshrining, welcoming. Giovanni Gorman. February is a revolution around the sun, our new year, floating above the hands of Ra, a reflection on the smile of God. All right, this next piece, love poem. Where's my baby? Where's she at? All right. Untitled Love Poem. You might have guessed this love poem doesn't have a title yet. I'm trying to figure it out. Not necessarily the title, but love. If I can at least explain love, I can title this poem. But I've typed backspace for 6 days straight, and all I've got is tired fingers and an untitled love poem. Since I can't put words to what love is, let's shift a bit. Love isn't all rose petals and chocolate truffles on Valentine's Day. It's Mondays, Tuesdays, maybe a few hump days, curse the world days. Sip a drink that burns like turpentine and snuggle before the weekend days. Now that I think of it, love has no weekends. It runs like a run-on sentence. Love makes the Holy Bible, Quran, and Pentateuch rolled into one papyrus scroll look like I wasn't ready to post that tweet. Love is simple. Let's have Valentine's Day card, kisses hidden in white space, wedding love the salutation, and a lover's pet name. The other half an envelope, pale from red to pink, stained with 1980s KFC chicken grease. Love's blemishes are landmarks, lingering like Crisco, lathering the floor, waiting for some fool to slip and fall. See the stars, galaxies. Love is the universe. The Big Bang exploding, racing toward tomorrows. The great creator hasn't crocheted in sequin yet. Love rips nothingness open, gorges it with space, burgeoning nebulas, collapsing into radiant stars that coalesce, churning galaxies. Love, you are the light of a trillion galaxies. Gliding beyond the ledge, imagination falls over. Love, you make dark matter dazzle. Love, you are amazing, and I still don't have a title.
Ashes to ashes, as dust is to dust. Blood runs thick like molasses. It passes through us. Oh, lay me down placid by the river at dusk, with high hopes that the tide will deliver us. Sorry. May sins of our fathers be hung out to dry, cleansed by the waters that swell from our eyes. So listen well, daughter, it's all right to cry. Let go of the monster that you foster inside.
Originally, they wanted to title that Tonight's the Day. So let's all be thankful they didn't do that. Second thing, I will leave you with this. I wrote this. To the romantic, there is nothing of greater significance than complete coincidence. All right. Scene, walking back into the apartment. So what do you want to do? Watch Netflix? I thought about it for a moment and frowned. If we do that, we're just going to start making out. Yeah, probably. We can do that later. Can we just put some music on in the background and talk? She opened iTunes on her laptop to play something through her monitor speakers. Did you ever listen to that National album? Trouble Will Find Me? Yeah, that night after our talk and almost every day since, I listened to it on the bus right here. What did you think? It's my new favorite by them. It was Alligator before, but now it's this. She nodded in solemn agreement before she started to play something. We lay cuddling on the couch as if it were a bed, our heads pillowed on one of the armrests. What is this, the National? It has to be, but I don't recognize the song. It's from the Virginia EP. It's basically just a compilation of non-album and soundtrack songs. It's good, you should get that too if you don't have it. We held each other and stared up at the ceiling as we listened to the EP together. What else do you listen to besides the National? I asked. Well, I guess mainly indie and alternative rock, but recently I've been trying to get into hip-hop. What have you been listening to? I can help you with hip-hop. I've heard all the classics, The Low End Theory, 36 Chambers, Illmatic, The Chronic, Ready to Die, Mad Villainy. She pulled her phone out and searched through her gallery for something. I'm gonna show you this, but you can't laugh, okay? I promised and watched the video she had taken of herself. Na 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 na, na 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 na. Send that to me. I'm not gonna share it, but I need it. Also, what is that from? It's Cocoa Butter Kisses by Chance the Rapper. I like it because the chorus is my life ever since I started smoking last semester with John. At first we were just doing it to feel cool, but then we got addicted and we couldn't stop. I saw him last year when I went to see Kendrick Lamar at the Student Union. Chance was his opening act. What about Kendrick? Have you heard him? Good Kid, Mad City is another one of my hip-hop favorites. She shook her head no and continued to listen intently. You should give that one a try if you're trying to get into hip-hop. And now, back to indie and alternative rock. Like what? That's a little vague. There's a lot of artists. Well, last semester, John and I were trying to listen to all the modern classics. We listened to the same ones, but I got really into Is This It by The Strokes for a few weeks, and Funeral by Arcade Fire became one of his. Have you heard those? Of course. I like them both, although the mastering on Funeral really puts me off from listening to it very often. She rolled her eyes at me. That's the audiophile in me. But my favorite album of all those early to mid-2000s indie revival bands is Turn on the Bright Lights, Interpol. That's one of my favorites of all time. What are your other favorites? Well, you're gonna need to be a little more specific than that. I'm a music collector. My library goes from the 1920s to the current day. I don't know how to answer that without sounding like I'm bragging. Give me a genre or a decade or something. How about rock from the 1980s? The Queen is Dead by the Smiths, obviously. I love the first side of Remain in Light by Talking Heads, but I can't really get into the second half as much. I haven't given Sonic Youth as much time as they probably deserve, though I've really enjoyed Daydream Nation whenever I've listened to it. But honestly, my three favorite 80s rock albums all came out at the tail end of the decade in 1989. The Stone Roses, Disintegration, and Doolittle. At the mention of Pixies, she got up from where we were laying on the couch and pulled her laptop to her. What's your favorite song on Doolittle? I guess most people would say one of the singles like Debaser or Here Comes Your Man or Monkey Gone to Heaven, but my favorite's always been. At that moment, Black Francis's voice shouted over me from her speakers to finish my answer for me. Hey! I looked at her and watched transfixed as she started to trace the words of the song with her voice. Been trying to meet you. I absorbed the nearly film-perfect timing of what was happening before I joined her. But hey, where have you been? We weren't great singers. Neither of us were particularly capable of replicating Black Francis's idiosyncratic yelps and squeals, and we giggled at each other as we both tried and failed to copy his voice-cracking scream on the line that the mother makes when the baby breaks. But in that moment, we were free of self-consciousness or shame as we echoed the song's final minute. The repeated line, "We're chained," like an invocation of a ritual spell between us.
Oof.
A little later that night. It's getting late. Do I need to take you back to your apartment, or are you just gonna sleep over? There's no one in my apartment right now. I'd rather crash here on your couch if that's all right. I mean, you're my boyfriend. You can just sleep in my bed with me. My body flushed with the sticky warmness of nervousness as I suppressed the quaver in my voice. Oh, okay. We off her Converse sneakers and knit hat and jumped into her bed. I took off my shoes and placed my watch belt and the contents of my pockets into them, then pared down from my dress shirt to the white undershirt beneath and hung it open on the back of a nearby chair. I got into the bed next to her. We cuddled up more comfortably and effortlessly than we ever had on her couch and lay looking up at the darkness of her ceiling. What are you thinking about? Just how happy I am with you, and I thought about the logical conclusion of where my thought was headed, then decided against it. Never mind, I'm not gonna say it. Tell me! She rolled over on top of me and pinned me down between her thighs and held my wrists to the sides of my head. She brought her face down to mine and kissed me. Tell me or I'm not getting off and I won't let you go to sleep. I laughed and shook my head no. I promise I'll tell you, but not right now, when the time is right. She kissed me again, longer than the first time, then kept her face close to mine and whispered to me, "You make me crazy. This feeling I have inside, it makes me want to say." I could hear the rest of her sentence in the tone of her voice, and I interrupted her. "Wait, I think what I was about to say and what you were about to say are the same thing. It's just a hunch, but if I'm right, then I feel it too." She looked closely into my eyes and checked them for deception before she continued. "I want to say I love you, but that's crazy, isn't it? We've only been dating for less than a week, and we've only really known each other for a month." I nodded my head in agreement. "That's why I hesitated, but knowing you feel it too makes me certain. I love you." She got off me and cuddled back into a comfortable sleeping position in my arms and sighed. We drifted off to sleep together and awoke in the same position the next morning. Thank you.
All right, our next three, Cedric, Caitlin, and Pat, if you're ready, please come down.
It's Black History Month, so I'm gonna do a poem about Black history. It's called My Ancestors. I'm so proud of them. It goes, I ponder 100 years from now, when I'm long gone, I want my descendants proud when they see where they come from. I want them to know I saw love in everything I would do. I want them to know and respect everything that I went through. I want them to carry on my legacy of peace and love for each other and know that I love the Lord, my Father, closer than a brother. I want them to know I love them before their existence was even contemplated. I want them to know I endure the adversity daily, hoping they will make it. I feel the same for my ancestors. They accomplished this feat. To me, they're heroes, kings and queens, and I eternally bow at their feet. Today, we play sports for millions. We gain wealth singing on stage. All thanks to my ancestors who were oppressed and worked vigorously for no wage. Presently, we can go to a nice restaurant, eat shrimp and steak, whatever we desire. My ancestors ate scraps and slop. They had to eat outside in the cold, next to a fire. My ancestors were being exploited. They had no voice in the laws that were broken. They fought long and hard, enduring extreme resistance just for the right to vote. Now we're being shot down the street and people are hurting. Still, some minimize our right to vote. When not that long ago, we were 3/5 of a person. My fathers and mothers were tied to a post, and they were lucky if to death they would bleed. They learned not to learn or pretend they couldn't write or read, because it was against the law to learn. And then schools had little resources to excel. Still, some are haphazard about learning and elevating, choosing to remain in jail. I presently realize Black minds collectively are bright, creative, and number. So to block our power, they made it illegal for us gave their lives in pursuit. And it's a shame because when we assemble now, some of us beef, rob, and shoot. If going somewhere my superhumans walked, they didn't have the luxury that we had. Any other mode of transportation was obsolete. Who that nigga on that neck? George Santana said it, and it will behoove one to believe it. If one doesn't know their history, he's doomed to repeat it. This poem is dedicated to the superstars like Martin, Malcolm, and Harriet. They sung in everlasting songs. It's easy to fight for a loved one, that's innate, but they stood and fought for future generations that were to come. But this is also for the slaves that stayed and prayed and stayed, worked sun up to sundown for no wage. The sharecroppers, the unknowns that endured harsh, inhumane treatment daily, hoping for a new book and a new page. Though we have much more work to do, blackness is much better today. It's beautiful and true. I'm so honored to be a product of my ancestors, and I hope they're proud of me too. Because that's my goal, I just want to make them proud. So every day I humbly approach this world, what I stand for, but quietly scream out loud. Thank God for my ancestors. Thank you.
Two warm June night, tucked securely between your thighs, with your hands on my knees and your eyes on my eyes. You stared at them like they contained the entire galaxy, traces of the Milky Way scattered across these cheeks. Did I twinkle? Did I glisten? Did I blind? Did they notice, you think? The others talking, eating, existing nearby? Could they feel our gravitational pull? Could they see our reflecting light? What about the planets? Did the moon get jealous? Did the stars startle at our sudden presence? I only ask because something about your head throwback laughs stole all my attention. And somehow your grinning smile eclipsed me a peripheral vision, and all I could manage was looking up. And although you only entered my orbit for the briefest of moments, I hold no regrets for the season we spent brushing shoulders with the solar system. For the one night I got to illuminate a cloudless summer sky. And God, how I wish that the constellations had bared witness, gathered together and conspired against fate to let us go onward. You can't outrun that timing. And when hometown promises came calling, you stood up from our bench and you left. So now, as I labor with head bent down over the remainders, grounded in sorrow and an autumn of dimly lit tomorrows, I can't help but allow myself one small indulgence. Not to hope, I know, would be too dangerous. But instead, when your absence feels heaviest, I just like to imagine that a single fragment of us got stuck, that the universe took pity on a shattered heart, and allowed itself to rearrange its carefully curated landscape to allow one sliver to remain. And so I picture that's up there somewhere, shining forever.
So I don't know why I still get nervous. I think that's a good thing. But tomorrow is actually my 7-year anniversary as a performing artist. So today is the unofficial 2-year anniversary of this show. And so when they first started the show, did the initial event, I asked, being that the name of the show was Authentic Selves, if I had the freedom to be my authentic self up here. They said yes, so now I'm gonna ask y'all if I have that privilege, that right, to be my authentic self up here. And if your answer is yes, let me hear you say yo. Yo. Spit poet. Spit poet. Yo. Yo. Spit poet. Spit poet. I don't know much about my mother's side of my family beyond her mother's first name and that her father was 1/2 Native American. I'm not sure from which tribe. But on my father's side, I am about 3/4 of the way Nigerian. So during a conversation regarding diversity, culture, and inclusion, when asked what was my African/Native American experience, I replied, not unlike millions of men resembling me who daily march through these streets, only briefly stopping to watch all these atrocities. Possibly until the day comes when, even for us, black bodies being left to die by the wayside becomes just another speed bump on the road of life. Because right now, being a black man in America is akin only to the feeling being lost in the wilderness can give. To have all angles exposed to the elements creates a culture where survival is the only thing relevant. So as it applies to the topics of diversity, culture, and inclusion, I've become somewhat disillusioned because certain facts have yet to be proven true. Like, when y'all say liberty and justice for all, do you just mean all of y'all that share the same hue? Or like all of y'all and you might sprinkle in a few? Or like all of y'all are tripping? We pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. We don't understand, why can't you? America, the delegation from the ghetto would like you to know that for us, there's nothing diverse about the collective belief that the very ground you walk on is cursed when you feel like your whole life has not only been scripted, but also shot and rehearsed time and time again, and seen. Black boy conceived, born, and abandoned in the hood. Black boy carries generations of trauma he doesn't understand, so of course he's misunderstood. Black boy is then labeled, tracked, and expedited through the school system, making his own living conditions worse. Black boy was 19 the first time he left his neighborhood. He was chauffeured out in a hearse. And still I wonder if his route was the easier way out, because I don't know what's after life, but before death seems always to be only a few steps away, because to have to live day after day after day being viewed as either super predator or prey is exhausting. And sometimes the dream of living in a world where that ain't the case seems more like a tailor-made coffin carved from the bark off of the tree of misery and woe. But say some of that wood was from them limbs is what strange fruit still grow. And you know they say a nigga, I'm in a strange fruit, nah, I'm in a nigga. Gonna go whichever way the wind blows, unless that wind blows him in the direction towards home, because home has become a war zone, and my better half is taking up a path that has her fists clenched, elbows arched up at me like somehow an indigenous man benefited from this country's patriarchy. And you know they used to buck break us. So tell me exactly what made us hate us. That Lynch letter, it was perverse, but it worked. Some of our women now say they hate niggas, but joke about being the new niggas with money. But ain't that just self-hate in reverse? Listen, Mookie absolutely did the right thing when he asked Pino who were his go-to people when he wanted to be entertained, and everyone he named just happened to be a so-called nigga. Framing the image on a picture that says, unless he can run, jump, or sing, everyone hates a so-called nigga. But in fact, we ain't even that. We are your fathers, uncles, nephews, brothers, cousins, and sons. I need you to be very clear. We are not the dysfunctional monsters they like to try to make us out to appear. But we have been conditioned to exist in a system where diversity can be seen as divisive. Inclusion still eludes us. In the environments we are raised in, have a culture of fear. Thank you.
one of our most recent artists in residence participants, Ty.
I'm gonna do something a little bit different, so I'm working on. So, she said that she would chew me up and spit me out. We have dinner. She's been nibbling at innuendos all night. I'm asked if I care for dessert. I say yes, and I take her to go. My heart is an instrument that she's been strumming, making music, something she can sing off tune to later. No key necessary for me to be lost in our vibrations. She is all I see. The way her tongue touches her lips, the way my tongue touches her lips. We begin to create our own ecosystem in her room with rainforest humidity. A sock scurries this way, her underwear runs that way, off in a burrow somewhere for us to search for later. She moans with satisfaction and my heart beats like a hummingbird's wings. The sweet taste of nectar from the center of her flower, her pretty pink petals. I find myself drowning, leaving us both gasping for air. Her back arches as a storm brews. Oh, how I love to play in the rain. The storm clouds seem worth an invitation, so I have her come over and over. I dig deep, breaking through to aquifer, shifting tectonic plates and causing earthquakes. She plays predator as she preys on her knees. It's funny, at dinner she said she would chew me up and spit me out, but tonight she did neither.
We grow to hate the sound of the keys that will never set us free. We sit down and get stuck in a rut. We grip our chest in pain and swallow bayers and nicotine and a bottle of water to charge us up to produce just enough to wake up another day with another headache and heartache and lost voice. Lost in a deep corner of darkness, just sitting there in fear, no desire to keep up, to make up, to do anything. And we call this place the makings of our ego because we need an enemy. We need a victim and a villain within ourselves. That's the only logical sense to the madness, the block, the glitches, the wrinkles, the mess we laid in. We refuse a life void of it because the getting is uncomfortable and unfamiliar and unfair and everything. So we just sit and wait to be rescued by death, when we know the misery of repeating it all again can't be escaped by the mere act of dying. So we develop a plan to kill the ego that is already starving in hopes that we can make music from the jingle of the keys.
Nice.
That we can transcend with our breath, without our breath or our love or our desires or our skin. We lie to ourselves until we learn to recognize the truth in the telling. The truth in the machine that we oil ourselves up just enough to produce for. The truth in the darkness that has consumed us. We learn to make friends with that darkness, and we learn how to feed our ego one bottle of water at a time. We use it to say a prayer from a place within us that we have refused to recognize. And when the sun rises, we open our legs and eat it up with our pussy and throw it up day after day after day until the darkness can stand the light, until our ego is regenerated. We start with an ounce of whatever we still know to do, and that becomes our only medicine until it is all we need. We learn to love the shadow and welcome the light, and we don't rush this. We suffer, and then we breathe, and then we suffer some more, and drink more water, and take in more sun, until we recognize the wind, and then we dance to the sound of the keys until we set ourselves free. In rhythm, and wild, chaotic rhythm, we dance, and we die, and welcome new life.
They say that in due time, positivity applied, negative time increases that natural growth spiritually, which is those paintings, which come from your art. I mean your heart. You see, you always gotta remember the struggle and sit back and watch the paint as it dries. But don't get too high from the aerosol when you spray paint, because sometimes your ego will get you not to see paintings as it dries. Sit back and focus on the sketch from your mind and focus on the reason that you truly are alive. And meditate for your real life and live your real life and focus on the reason why people meditate to you is because of your real life. And there ain't no second chance in this thing called rewind, but maybe this poetry is something that I might be able to rewind, but sometimes I just put it off the top of the dome because this poetry that I'm writing comes from these paintings that I sat back and watched as they dried. Focusing on the reason that I really am alive. Focusing on God's beautiful paintings each and every day. You better take a picture because I promise you every abstract painting from God's mind is not going to look the same. I thank God for the beautiful rain. Even the days that I sat there and played inside the rain when I used to be mad, but now these days I learned that these seeds that have to grow need the rain, so I guess I'm getting this rain for my seed to grow inside of me. You gotta understand this poetry comes out like the painting that it's supposed to be, so I'm enjoying the sketches and the paint too. Maybe even the aerosol, because I like to get a little bit high, but not too high. I like to stay grounded, and I love to stay present. I love these presents that God gives me so I don't stress the past. In the future, I'm not too anxious, because see, like I said, I love these presents, so I'm going to stay tuned with this gift of this thing they call life, which is love is forever eternal, and I thank God for his love. My grandmother made sure that these legacies that I left behind will be left behind. Even the artwork on my legacy, you're going to see I'm leaving the art behind. That's no pun intended. I mean, really, I drive a legacy, and they last a long old time. Mine's pushing about 300 plus, and don't get it twisted. That wagon still got some get and some go at these shows. I got art in the back of the trunk from these legacies I'm trying to leave behind. I always got these legacies that I'm leaving behind, which is these seeds. See, all of y'all seeds. God's seeds of this artistry. And last time I checked, we all got some art inside of our mind. So stay focused in due time and realize that the beautiful paintings that you gotta paint, you're supposed to paint them all the time. God's just waiting for you to paint your painting so he can hang it upon the wall. So he sit back and embrace the painting that he created all from the glory from his mind. You see, the people on the third, second, and first floor all understand his mind. We're in the most beautiful place on earth, which is God's present time. I thank God for his art. So each time I sit and open up my eyes to see a new day, God's beautiful art. I take the inhale and exit of the meditation from these days. Because I don't get a second chance to see his painting from the other day unless I snap the picture. But even in those pictures, something looks different in each and every way. So always remember the struggle. And always stay tuned with your art. And pave the way from your pain. Because the positivity applied and negative time increases that natural growth spiritually. And that's these paintings. Because every piece of painting has some pain. If you sit back and just embrace it some days. So when you walk inside of your own gallery, sit back and embrace some paintings. Don't be so quick to watch them dry. Sit back and watch them dry. Because some paintings will take a long, long time to dry. And some are just that quick. But if you look too quick, it's like a blink in the eye. The art might not look the same. Stay focused in due time and paint the way you're painting. And always remember the struggle. Because those are some beautiful days. So positivity apply and negative time
increases that natural growth spiritually. And as artists, we all just trying to grow spiritually.
That's right.